Hi everyone, this is your host Greg. Today's featured playwright is Crose, who made the fiction podcast The Ordinary Epic. If you enjoy The Ordinary Epic, you can consider supporting its second season on patreon.com/theordinaryepic. Speaking of Patreon, I'd like to thank the newest supporter of Boston Podcast Players, Sean Crawford. Thanks for supporting our podcast. Lastly, I'd like to acknowledge the Bob Jolly Charitable Trust. This group, founded in the memory of local actor Bob Jolly, has supported the podcast as well as countless other theater endeavors in the Boston area and enabled us to pay our contributors. We learned recently that they have wound down their charitable operations, so I'd like to say thanks for their support while they were operating. Now more than ever, it's important to support projects in your region that do the type of work you want to see more of. Listeners, please consider supporting someone you like today.
Boston Podcast Players is supported by a grant from the Bob Jolly Charitable Trust.
Boston Podcast Players.
The story thus far.
Cast of characters.
Empress of
An
Rome.
entity or demon.
A run-of-the-mill Polish guy in his 40s.
Setting.
In a small hut
A
in the
long
city of
forgotten
Beijing.
era that lives both in the
Act
past.
1,
We
Scene 1.
create the
possible.
world with the stories we tell about
Act 1,
ourselves.
Scene
Because
2.
Steven, he could
Act
be anywhere,
1,
right?
Scene 3.
Don't give up the ship! Cannon fire!
Bianca pushes the stop button. The end.
Welcome everyone to Boston Podcast Players, Boston's virtual podcast stage for new works by local playwrights. I'm Greg Lamb, the host of the show, and today I'm joined by today's guest co-host, former featured playwright John Minigan. John, welcome to the show. How are you enjoying retirement?
There are not enough positive adjectives in the dictionary or the English language. It's great. Almost makes it worth the 35 years of teaching to get to be retired. No, it's wonderful. I'm able to do projects that I had put aside and able to stay in my pajamas until 10:30 in the morning, so it's great.
Speaking of your projects, you've been very busy since we last spoke for the podcast. Would you like to tell us about, say, your trip to Edinburgh?
Sure. This summer, a production company called Yes Please raised funds to bring a 55-minute cutting of my play Noir Hamlet, which was done in Boston last year, to the Edinburgh Fringe. We ran for 2 weeks, had an unbelievably wonderful time. Great audiences, great reviews, and the chance to live with a company of 8 folks who were creating art and having a great time every day. Also saw some incredible work. I sort of feel like retirement's been great, but that was probably the peak, and it's probably downhill after that. But yeah, it was wonderful. It was really great.
That sounds like quite an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of adventures, the featured play in this episode is not a play at all, but the adventure fiction podcast, The Ordinary Epic by Crose. Yes, this is a full switcheroo from your featured episode with co-host and featured playwright. So what should the audience know going in about The Ordinary Epic?
The thing that I find really amazing about it is that you get immersed simultaneously in 2 different related worlds. It's a play about a group of people playing a role-playing game, which is unlike a copywritten role-playing game and is completely original. So there's no possibility of trademark violations. So it's the world of those who are playing the game, but also this great auditory soundscape that you go into as the characters go into role and into the world of the game. And the sort of stories evolve sort of in parallel ways and intersecting ways and in ways that become increasingly compelling as the episodes go along.
The Ordinary Epic, Season 1, Episode 1. The Group.
The expedition went as planned, friend, but with one happy exception. Where you sent us after copper, we found gold.
Maybe I and my men were partial to the copper.
But you like this particular gold better, Caelus.
This is no trinket, as you thought, but a holy artifact from the gods' war days, possibly before. Its purpose is unknown, but I detect that it still holds great power within.
So what's your point?
That it is worth, well, somewhat more than the modest bounty you originally offered.
Is that so?
Yeah, it is.
Call off your troll, Merrick.
Thack half orc. What? Will not humans look same to you?
No threat was implied, friend, of course. The lady has a gruff demeanor, but a heart of gold.
Lady? How can you tell?
Thack dance real pretty, that how, and can crush your fucking skull with one hand. More skulls take 2 hands.
Stand down, boys. It's a curious thing, your band of misfits. Orc muscle, a pointy-eared sage.
Actually, it's pronounced mage with an M sound, as in the marvelous magics that may maim or murder in a manner most meticulous.
And a half-breed face man.
Half-elf, if you would. Race is kind of difficult for you, huh? Well, thank you, at least, for not calling me thief like everyone else.
I don't altogether enjoy this conversation, but we can bargain. I just need to know that your pet human won't be trouble later.
Beg your pardon?
The silent one in the raiment of a holy man?
Is that me?
See anyone else wearing bed sheets? Are you an actual priest, or do you perhaps wear the robes for fun? This trinket is sacred to your order or some such, isn't it? Am I gonna have cause to regret this trade later?
Time out? So, I'm confused. What am I supposed to say to him?
That you don't care?
But maybe he does care.
Do I?
Think about what your character would say, Marcus, and just say that.
This really isn't like most board games.
New guy isn't even a gamer. Yet another nice find, Emo.
Shut up, Dom. Marcus, it's a role-playing game.
Right.
So, you're this holy guy, Benedict.
Right.
And he's just joined this adventuring party.
Right. Why?
Because we needed someone to heal us and not ask questions.
Dom!
What?
Any reason you want, Marcus. That's the great thing about this game. You can be anyone you want. Do anything you want, for any reason, so long as it's true to your character.
Oh my god, he does speak.
What? No, he doesn't.
That is the absolute most I have ever heard Daniel say that wasn't in character as Merrick.
What is happening right now?
He doesn't like to be the center of attention. Like this, right now. He hates this. This is his nightmare. Daniel.
So this is like improv.
Thank you so much.
One guy says, I like artichokes. So the other guy says, oh, really? Well, too bad. I got the last one. And now you have a scene with conflict, which is good for some reason. I did an improv class with my old job one time. It was mostly about artichokes.
Sure.
Cool. I totally got this.
Wait, but...
So the buyer says, or am I gonna have cause to regret this trade later?
There's no need for regrets, brother, because there is no trade.
What?
What?
Great.
This artifact belongs to my church, and as such, I cannot part with it for any price. What did I say?
Kill them all! The last man falls to Thack's towering blade. You survey the aftermath. Several bodies lie scattered around the now empty tavern, though the buyer himself seems to have escaped. And with him, your chance of offloading the relic for a bounty.
Well, glad you took my advice to heart.
This is why we don't like new players. The group is the group, and new guy is a bad player.
Don't call people names, douche canoe.
New guy is playing this game badly.
We were supposed to sell the thingy to the guy, huh?
Yes!
No, I mean, not necessarily.
We were actually, empirically...
And off they go.
If you want to destroy this man's agency, you're going to have to get through me, Dom. I'm small, but I'm scrappy, and I don't think that's pain you can handle.
I don't even know where to start. He's playing improv games about artichokes while we're trying to finish this campaign.
This a typical game night for you guys?
Not at all. They usually argue more.
Dominic likes things a certain way.
And Emo's an agent of chaos.
So there's bound to be a disagreement, or several. And I hope you don't take anything Dominic says personally. He like you and want you to stay.
Cool. What's an emo?
Emo? Her?
Imogene?
Her name is Imogene?
Your name is Emo?
There may or may not have been a goth phase in high school and the name stuck. Tell anyone at work and I'll cut you, pretty boy. I'll cut you bad. Anyway, Dom, you have got to stop scaring away new friends just because you don't like them.
Learn something new every day.
So, you work together? Is that how you guys...
Yeah, she's IT and I'm in sales. I'm kind of new to town and she's one of the few people who'll talk to me. Yesterday I said something about Lord of the Rings. She got kind of a manic look in her eyes and now I'm sitting in this basement surrounded by books and weird dice.
It is a slippery slope.
So what do you guys...
This is my last year of pre-med.
Oh, cool.
Not really.
I work from my house.
Living the dream.
It's a little lonely.
I hate my job too, if that helps.
Thank you. It does.
Emo, you really can just sleep with a guy. You don't have to bring all of them to game night first.
Awkward.
Benedict is not your box of Band-Aids or anyone else's. He's a real, fictional person whose interests may sometimes be at cross purposes with yours, but that's what makes a good story. And, besides which, but relevant, look at those muscles, Dom. Look at them. He doesn't even work out. Did you know that? He doesn't even work out.
Awkwarder.
Oddly, I'm okay being objectified in this way.
This is a highly complex game that he simply doesn't know how to play, and that is preventing us from playing it to the best of our considerable ability. Full stop.
It's a story. Full stop.
It is a story with points. You acquire tasks. You complete those tasks. You are awarded experience points. Once you have enough points, your character becomes more powerful, can attempt more difficult tasks, is awarded even more points.
Oh, Dom, we love you, and we really, truly don't know why.
Now the buyer, whose men we butchered and who rightly fled for his life, gave us a task. Please acquire this holy relic for me, and I will pay you for it. We, the three of us, by the way, not him, acquired it, and then new guy joins the party and decides that we're not going to deliver the goods because that would be more fun. That's not more fun. That's a failed quest. 0 experience points.
Not entirely true. The bodyguards were worth 15 experience each, so split 4 ways.
Caelus was supposed to level up this game. Point-wise, this was by far the lesser path.
Then let's find a better one.
How?
After a day's journey along the winding road, you arrive at the Muscaton Abbey, a church devoted to the worship of Godwin, and command post of Benedict's superior, Father Oren. Together you await his audience.
This is not typically how we do things, brother.
What do you mean?
He means that we're not in the habit of simply handing over valuable things for no reward.
Oh, but there is a reward.
Yeah?
It's knowing that you did the right thing. Okay, just my reward then.
Oh, pretty boy, so pretty, not so smart.
It's a matter of profit versus loss, Benedict. What do we gain by just handing this thing over? We know what we lose. A considerable bounty, provided we can find another buyer and resist somehow trying to murder him or her.
Leverage against whomever the buyer represented, should they return at some point for the peace or payback or both.
Aye, that too. And lest we forget a trinket of unknown power that could prove useful to us when we have need, which we often do.
Brother Benedict.
Father Oren.
Not 2 days departed on your pilgrimage, and already you're keeping company with murderers and thieves.
Only sometimes and usually, but mostly only when they deserve it.
If they not Thack, or friend of Thack, Thack say they deserve it.
It's like you always said, Father Oren. If you seek to save a sinner, then you must sleep where sinners do.
It wasn't meant literally. Perhaps it was a mistake, sending an orphan with little knowledge of the world out into it alone. You've always been more comely than bright, lad.
Yes, wonderful. His pulchritude makes the poets weep. What of the device, God Speaker?
Yes, the device. Let me see it.
I'll save you some time. We know, of course, that it is fueled by holy magic, Thus, its power is likely curative or protective in nature.
What else?
Slots at the top and bottom of the rod suggest missing gemstones or crystals. It's unclear whether they were enchanted or merely decorative, but I suspect the former.
Incorrect.
Now, the script seems to be of an early... Sorry, what was that?
You're wrong.
Well, it certainly... But... You're wrong?
What you have stumbled upon is one piece of a much more powerful whole. And now that its parts are in motion, I'm afraid that it is far too much of a liability to keep this here, despite its great significance to our order.
Oh. What exactly is the completed set?
The god staff of many pieces, the most valuable, dangerous, and powerful artifact in all the history of our known world.
Oh.
So before, when you told the buyer that it was an ancient relic from the God's War...
I had a sense, naturally, that it was not what it seemed to be at first.
He was lying. We do that sometimes.
When we tell truth.
So, mostly the three of you steal things for wealthy people and then extort more money from those people than was promised.
Hey, extort? We negotiate.
By lying to them.
Turns out, wasn't a lie.
By coincidence.
As I mentioned before, I did have something of a sense that this relic was more than it appeared to be.
Pointy ears still yapping.
Your ears are also pointed. Ignorance triumphs yet again. I shall cease my efforts.
I made a terrible mistake.
Refusing to sell it was perhaps not
I meant joining your group. It's common for a priest on pilgrimage to travel with like-minded souls. Instead, I fell in with you. Refusing to sell this relic was the only smart thing I've done in the past few days.
Well, for my part, and despite the considerable loss in profit your crisis of conscience inflicted upon us, I've enjoyed your company. It's been some time since we adventured with a healer. They kept dying on us, and eventually we just gave up.
What?
I'm kidding, of course. Most of them left in disgust. One did die.
Poor Benedict.
What?
His name also Benedict. Look a little like you, too.
Next town, I'm rid of the lot of you. I just need to figure out a place where no one will ever find this Godstaff piece, and that I can get to before whoever's looking for it finds me.
Interesting notion. And you are offering us how much as payment, brother?
Payment?
As we Intrepid 3 did recover the eldritch artifact of world-shaking power ourselves without your aid.
I did point that out before. Fine.
It's not yours to take without suitable compensation. One might even call such a thing theft.
Well, I took something called a vow of poverty, so...
Sounds like we're stuck with each other.
For now, until I'm satisfied that this relic will not fall into the wrong hands.
Welcome to the Dauntless Dungeoneers, Brother Benedict.
Thanks, I think.
Keep Thack healed up nice, pretty boy. Thack, keep your enemies dead.
You really don't have to do that? Actually, please don't.
Caelus?
You too, Caelus.
So, what exactly is this thing? And more importantly, what should we do with it?
I'm afraid that the god staff of many pieces belongs more to the realm of myth than knowledge.
So you don't know?
Of course I do. Though, I will perhaps lean on our good brother for the insipid made-up divine bits.
Heresy, too. That's nice.
At the supposed dawn of creation, the gods carved from the first tree a staff that allowed them to rule over this world and all the creatures on it. Eventually, they decided...
You mean Torak the Betrayer decided?
Someone, or multiple someones, decided that this staff represented too much power in too few hands.
Thus began the Gods' War, a battle for the fate of rule born out on the world of men.
Men? The elves were here first,
the
human.
Consequences of which shattered earth and boiled sea, creating the mountains and deserts we have to this day.
Right, that's of course where our geological features come from.
Anyway, the staff was broken, and the creatures of this world were left to govern their own fate. However, the staff, being immortal like the gods, could not be destroyed utterly, and so the individual pieces were scattered across the world, hidden in the deepest, most remote places, so that it would never again be reassembled.
like part where gods make mountains with violence. Thack, do that someday.
Friends, our path is obvious. We sell it for a lot of money. Really, just a disgusting amount of wealth. We retire and never steal again, except when it's essential we do so for the greater good. Or when we're bored.
We absolutely cannot...
I mean, to some elite private collector. It'll be every bit as hidden and guarded as it was in that ancient dungeon we ransacked. Maybe more so.
Thack say keep magic stick. Help us kill better.
The magic of this piece is supposed to be protective.
Yeah, protect us so we kill more.
Right.
Caelus. Oh, wonderful. So we care now what the mage thinks?
We always cared. We just were never interested.
You'll be interested in this. I think that we should find the rest of the pieces before someone else does.
Oh, really?
We all heard your cult leader.
Father Orin is a high priest of Godwin, not...
Should the completed staff fall into the wrong hands, nothing we know or hold dear will be safe.
Whose hands are the right hands? Yours?
You adventurers and your right and wrong. It's hilarious, really. Don't bother with that, beastie. My patron is very, very unhappy that you killed his other men, so now he's sent all these archers. Goodness, just look at them all.
Godwin's balls!
Blasphemy?
Is that really the most pressing thing?
Your only concern right now should be walking out of this alive. And believe me, there's only one way that happens. Hand over the piece, like you should have in the first place. The buyer has you completely surrounded and outnumbered, much worse than before. He smirks as you contemplate your limited options. What do you do?
Guys, Thack's still a little bruised from that last scuffle.
Merrick, too.
Caelus still has a few of his more powerful spells, but I'm not sure we're all going to make it out of this one.
Wait, are you saying we fight?
We fight.
Even for no tangible reward? What about your optimal points?
Well, about that, look, new guy, I've been, I guess, a little hard on you.
You're also still calling me new guy instead of Marcus.
Yeah, I don't think that's likely to change, but look, these game nights, I mean...
It's okay, man.
What I am trying to say is that you don't suck quite as much as I thought, and this game has been, I suppose, 1 to 3% more fun than the ones before you were here. So you can stay in the group, I guess.
Aww.
And also, Father Orin technically did give you a different quest when he asked you to take the piece far away. One that has, you've likely surmised, a much higher experience point reward than the original.
Never once crossed my mind.
There he is.
So, we attack?
New guy's call.
Really?
You got us this far, let's see it through your way.
Thanks, Dominic.
And I want you to know that Emo was right. You do have nice muscles.
Thanks, Dominic.
Arrows knocked, bowstrings taut. The buyer's men regard you coolly as...
Oh, wait. Sorry to interrupt.
Everyone just does. No need to apologize.
Is the reason you invited me here...
That I just wanted to get into your pants? Yes, 100%.
Ah.
But don't even worry about it. I've decided you're not nearly weird enough for me.
That's cool. But is it, weird if I keep showing up to these?
I'd say it's just weird enough.
Can we finish the story?
The buyer awaits your decision, poised as one both ready for a fight and assured of its outcome. I'll have that relic now.
Thack, oh pretty boy, have more healing. We gonna need it.
You guys might. One of you dies and I'm running for it. So don't.
We'll have to use every advantage, and we've not many left.
Just one? But maybe it's all we need.
Benedict, you have no idea what that piece does. What consequences using it will have?
Oh, actually, I do. Want to see before we all die?
Yup.
Next time I make the plans. This really is the worst one yet.
If you're going to do it now! Pacta de Caelus descendere, iperet, ignis et versantes mihi infernum!
Obliterate!
Our featured playwright is Brandon Crose, a short play specialist who had the idea to make a fictional podcast about a group of role players that he called the Ordinary Epic. He recruited a cast of all-star voice actors from the local theater scene, and knocked out the recording very quickly, I understand. And then came the post-production. I'm sure he can tell us all about how that went. Brandon, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good to be back in the hot seat this time.
So what was your thinking in making this podcast series? What were your challenges?
I've wanted for as long as I've been writing, or at least I consider myself a writer or an aspirational writer, to tell a story that felt like playing a tabletop role-playing game with friends felt. I tried it sort of in prose fiction in college. It was a little awkward, didn't quite work, wasn't compelling in the way I wanted. A co-writer and I tried it sort of as a web series, sort of short, sort of video segments. We got as far as the script and never got as far as filming it. Finally, it's kind of amazing it took me as long as it did for me to stumble upon audio drama as the natural format for this kind of story.
You save a lot on costumes that way.
Yeah, there was a 10% reduction on costumes. Yeah, so what's great about audio drama is it is, it's an audio only format anyway, just like a game not unlike Dungeons and Dragons would be. The story is kind of told verbally. There might be like visual aids. You might have a grid map. You might have your miniatures and your dice to resolve things. But for the most part, the story takes place in your mind, very similarly to how an audio drama does. So there was an episode of the Truth podcast called Chaotic Neutral, where I listened to this at the gym one day and was like, I wish I'd thought of this. Because it was basically, I modeled off of what a series like this would look like. So it was just a standalone episode where a group of gamers kind of gets together and one of them hasn't showed up yet, and then it turns out he's died in a car accident. And so
that was dark.
Yeah. And so they sort of send off his fictional character in the game world, and through that are kind of able to work through their real life feelings about losing their friend. And I was like, oh, I'll do that. This is a really long-winded answer to your succinct question, but this is what I would hope sort of a television series of, let's say, Dungeons and Dragons would be like. Whenever a story is told about fantasy gaming, it's always about the game world and never about the real people.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is if you were to tell a Dungeons and Dragons story, that's the other piece of it. It's what the real world people are bringing to the characters, what they're able to express as their fictional characters that they can't in their real life, how the two bounce back and forth between each other, how the friendship dynamics sort of echo and contort in the fantasy world.
One of the things that I wondered when I was listening, you've got these two very compelling worlds, and in the process of, once you got to that point of like, I know what the structure of this is going to be, did you find that you were more driven by the story in the fantasy world, the story among the actors, the characters at the table, or did they feed off each other?
That's a really good question. I think I had to be, a lot of work I did with various drafts of the pilot was making sure the fantasy world wasn't running away with me, because that's a really fun story for me to tell. Mm-hmm. But where I kept having to rein it back in was to make sure that everything the fictional character counterpart of each real world character, everything they did and said was in some way a mirror image, a reflection or a refraction of that real world person. I would say the fantasy part was really easy to write and probably too easy. and that's where a lot of the work of the revision came, was to make sure that the two were kind of walking in step.
And it's interesting not to give any spoilers for those who have not reached Amends episode 6, but there's in some ways a clearer resolution in the fantasy world than there is in the world of the gamers, which I thought was really interesting. As I was listening, because as you know, I'm such a big fan of fantasy.
Sure.
It's not my genre. So for me, it always felt like the fantasy world was the subconscious, what's going on, and the subtext, and what's really happening in the lives of these people. And I thought it was really interesting, and I really liked the fact that they were able, on that level of their friendship, relationship, frenemyship, to get to a point where they could achieve resolution, even if things still felt kind of open-ended in terms of like, so how do these people at the table get along now?
Yeah.
And we should mention that this is a complete 6-episode season of the story, and it's all uploaded at theordinaryepic.com.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you can scoot over after listening to this and binge at your leisure.
Yeah, you can and should.
Yeah.
So, John, I should ask you, we should go over our relationship with role-playing.
Yes.
Do you have any whatsoever?
Other than more than 30 years as a classroom teacher, no. That has been my greatest role. No, but I've never, I don't know whether I didn't fall into a group of friends who were really into it, or whether I just didn't ever fall into a group of friends. So, but I've never had the experience of this. My son plays D&D. He plays it in person. He plays it online with friends. But I've never had the experience myself. Working with students, we've created 2 plays, one of which was very much a D&D inspired kind of play as a devised work. And another was a play in which you're talking about the podcast that you listened to reminded me of it, because it's about 3 siblings. One of the siblings dies, and it's in the gaming world that one of the grieving siblings is able to connect with the avatar of his deceased brother.
Oh, cool.
So yes, my role-playing history is that friends of mine in my freshman dorm in college did role-playing, and I would often have pizza with them as they started. And listen to them begin, and then after a half hour, I'd take my leave, and they would go on for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So I am sort of this is a geek adjacent neighborhood to my types of geekdom. So I know enough to know some terms, but other than that, I've never delved into this.
There are very few rooms in which I am the resident expert on tabletop gaming, role-playing games. Wow. I mean, it's funny. Back when I was playing, it was what the geeks and the nerds did. Now it's borderline cool, or it's at least it's not social suicide to be a fan of it. I mean, there's really successful actual play D&D podcasts where a group of friends or professional actors, they'll just play. It's like my show, except the real part isn't scripted. It's just them in the room playing, die rolls and all that. And it was kind of amazing to me that there would be an audience for that. I wouldn't think anyone would want to watch my game of Dungeons and Dragons. Right. So I'm amazed that it's blown up like it has recently.
I think one of the things
your next podcast.
One of the things that's attractive about it, I think, for people who enjoy storytelling, is the fact that the person running the game gets to create twists and turns. And in my family, when we were together and having a board game night, which we still do, although my kids are in their 20s, we will occasionally play games that are like that, where I can't remember the name of the game we're playing most recently, but it really is like you are in a world that has no rules yet, and as you move, you create the rules. And it's really interesting, and it reveals a lot about personality in ways that also become clear in the ordinary epic. You find out about people based on how they behave in the game.
Yeah.
Brandon, when you role play, are you usually the DM or are you one of the players?
I have been, in my group of middle and high school friends, I was usually the game master, the dungeon master. I love being a player, and I so rarely get to. But yeah, that's usually the role I'm in.
So how frustrating or thrilling is it when a player just goes off the rails in their decisions? Because we have writers who often say, I'm writing this thing, and all of a sudden the character behaves in a way that I didn't intend.
Yeah.
And, this is literal. Your characters are going 3-hour side trips on a way you didn't want.
Right. Yeah, the best example I have of that from my own gaming experience is one time where I was the player, and I think I was to blame for that, and it was a published adventure, and it was a 2-part thing, and one part took place in the Forgotten Realms, and then it shifted over to the Ravenloft universe. And we skipped almost the entirety of the first module because we just chose not to go into the castle we were supposed to. My friend was like, Okay. Going to Ravenloft. But yeah, I mean, personally, as the game master, I love sort of curveball and surprises. What I was sort of writing about in episode 5, Table Talk, where, not to get too spoilery, but you should just stop right now and listen to the whole series.
Yeah.
It's like,
We'll wait.
barely over 2 hours, right? What are you waiting for? TheOrdinaryEpic.com. So in episode 5, there's kind of a moment of reckoning where there's these little hints that Athena, the game master, is sort of taken for granted, and in her own life, but also, you know, in this game world specifically, where she's really flexible and accommodating, and over time, often as can happen with personalities like that, not at all speaking from personal experience, it's just sort of assumed that you will continue making that room for everyone, that you will continue to be agreeable, that you do in some ways have to claim that space for yourself, because people aren't always going to just yield it to you without asking. Right. It may not occur to them to do so. And so Athena kind of has this moment where, you know, she rode an adventure and she's looking forward to it, and they kind of just decide, screw it, let's hang out and talk. Yeah. and that's something I really relate to as a DM or a former DM, is that thing where, as the person organizing and telling the story, you've put the most work into each game night of anyone at that table. Right. Usually. It can kind of devolve into just a hangout between friends, or someone might pull up a funny thing they found on YouTube or Facebook, and now the conversation's about that instead of the thing you were talking about. And it's like, it's mentally exhausting to keep all this math, all this like narrative sort of twists and turns, like you're cranked up to 11 on both sides of your brain, and it's just a lot of work. And sometimes when the players aren't when they're kind of taking it for granted that your story can start and stop whenever they want, which I guess is what I was trying to get at with that episode.
That explains the screaming that I hear from my son's room. He's playing online with friends and he's the DM.
Oh, yes.
Has your son listened to the Ordinary Epic?
I don't know if he has. I've pushed him toward it. I'm like, this is for you. This is, and then he can explain to me what's really going on in the world of the game.
Yeah.
If you listen to the extract, you'll notice that it's very richly produced with music and sound and all that. Do you want to talk about the efforts that went into post-production?
Yeah. This should have been my 3rd or 4th audio drama attempt. Not my first. I bit off so much more than I thought I was. You know, I used to co-write an audio drama podcast called Second Shift. And this was between 2006 and I think 2011 was when the last episode aired. And this is before audio drama as a podcast, at least in the States, really had a presence. We were sort of, I don't want to say we were pioneers, but we got to the scene really early.
Were you before or after Welcome to Night Vale?
I think before.
All right.
I think a little bit before.
Take that, Welcome to Night Vale.
Yeah. Yeah, Welcome to Night Vale. Pretenders. Take it back. You're excellent. You're good people. And it was for its time really, you know, ambitious and richly produced. And I think moving on to the Ordinary Epic, I sort of assumed that would be doable at the pace we had been doing at the Second Shift, which was pretty quickly. I would write an episode one week, we'd record it the next week, and then it would be out on the feeds, you know, a week or two later. But that was also a pace that burnt everyone out, and then delays between episode extended, and you know, and that's why the last episode aired in 2011.
How many episodes overall?
Roughly 30, including the bonus episodes, I think, and they were all quite a bit longer than these too. So
yeah, I listened to
a lot.
First one the other day, and yeah, I was surprised that it was a 30-minute.
Yeah.
Here we are. Hope you like us. There's 30 minutes of us.
Yeah.
Do you want to go over the premise of Second Shift?
Yeah.
People want to check that out?
Yeah. So this was an audio drama series created by Nathan Andrea Davis, who at that time was known as Andrea Jennifer Schubert. And this is a story about 3 college friends who are mysteriously teleported to a magical fantasy world. So it's a portal fantasy, sort of in the vein of Joel Rosenberg's Guardians of the Flame series of novels, where real people from our world have to contend with sort of a vibrant but often dangerous fantasy world. Mm. And it wasn't that they were gaming, it's that they were in a parking lot going to see like a Harry Potter movie or something. Right. And just the spirit moved them.
Suddenly.
Yeah.
So can we surmise that the clash of fantasy and reality is somewhat of a theme in your
Right. And yeah, a little bit I loved the sort of the duality of that story, kind of how 2 worlds collide. Mm-hmm. And it was very much on my mind with the Ordinary Epic. Like, how do I tell a story like Second Shift, but really make it my story? So Second Shift wasn't created by me, and I co-wrote it. I was one of the lead writers, but it was a giant team, and I was really curious, what would a show look like that I wrote?
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that in Ordinary Epic, it is those 2 worlds, but it's a pair of worlds that's decided upon by the characters rather than a second world that happens to them, which, again, means on some level that that subconscious working out of what happens in the game feels really connected to who they are.
Right.
And it may be that Second Shift, I haven't gotten far enough in Second Shift to know whether that happens, but that was the immediate contrast for me that I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, in Second Shift, they're trying to escape the fantasy world.
Right.
They're trapped there. Whereas in the Ordinary Epic, the fantasy world is only possible if they're kind of all on the same wavelength. Right. It's the exponential factoring of their collective imagination, but it only works if they're all keyed in.
Right.
And so you see in times when it's like interrupted, or episode 5 when there's kind of like a failure to launch.
Yes. And again, as somebody who's not totally in that fantasy world, loved episode 5. It was I really enjoyed the podcast, but that was my favorite episode.
Yeah.
And listening to the characters deal with their challenges, their disappointments, the game master's frustration with inability to control things that we have to control in our real and fantasy lives. And I thought that was really compelling. And then one of the things that I thought interesting, it relates to a question I have for later, is that episode 5 is almost completely in the real world, and episode 6 is almost completely in the fantasy world.
Right.
And that was a cool trampolining from one world into the next. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. I was really curious, and kind of the first 4 episodes sort of like establish a formula, and then episodes 5 and 6, I was like, what if we broke it?
Yeah.
What would that look like?
And that kind of connects to my next question. You've written a lot of amazing 10-minute plays. When I was teaching in Weston, we did 4 of them, I think. Just because
you did, yeah.
I think we ended up doing 4. And I couldn't help but noticing that in the first 4 episodes, they're about 20 minutes long. And you spend about half of it in one world and half of it in the other. So I wondered whether you thought there was any carryover from working so much in the 10-minute form to how do you shape parts of a story, and how do you parallel to almost 2 10-minute story arcs per episode?
No. Next question. Just kidding.
Even as I was thinking of that question, I was like, man, I hope nobody ever asks me a question like that. I have no idea what to say.
I'm going to fumble my way towards an answer. And I may accidentally end up answering your question. I may go in a completely different direction. I guess with these, what I'm trying to do is craft really tight, really structured sort of episodes like you might see on television. Television is broadcast TV is up to, I don't know, 5 act breaks or 7 act breaks at this point. You have a few minutes between commercials, and each one is considered an act. Here there's the teaser, the first act, and the second act. And then there's at least structured a commercial break between acts 1 and 2, which have been our own ads or ad swaps with other audio drama podcasts so far. Mm-hmm. But we are accepting sponsors for season 2.
So did we just break the news that there will be season 2?
Oh, well, we're working on it. My executive producer, Jordan Stillman, and I are, we're putting together outlines right now.
Oh, that's great.
A lot of it does depend on funding.
Have you talked to the folks at Geico?
Did you know that Casper mattresses are obsessively engineered for your comfort? So that sounded pretty good, right? That's the kind of thing you might hear on the Ordinary Epic someday. No, I mean, like, it was really expensive to produce season 1. And season 2, I think we're going to try to do it in a way where I think because of the nature of where the story went and the sort of the climax there, I think maybe we've earned a sort of slower, kind of not low key, but a little more introspective.
Not a dip.
Certainly not a dip, but maybe more episodes sort of in the vein of episode 5, where it is maybe mostly in the real world, and maybe we explore the epic in ways that aren't always the fantasy role-playing game. It might be other ways where, you know, your imagination, your collective imagination can kind of transcend sort of where you are and what you're doing. I definitely did not answer your question.
But I think you did in the sense of really working toward tightly structured pieces.
Yeah.
And I think that's the nature of the 10-minute form. It's got to be really tightly.
Well, interestingly, yeah, how I write 10-minute plays is the opposite of that. I don't structure them. I go in blind, which short plays, that's the only format in which I write that way. Everything else I've ever written has always been I need to know what's going to happen. But with 10-minute plays or shorter, they're kind of, each one's kind of like a thought experiment, and it works or it doesn't, which is why I love, you know, I'm going to plug it again, 31 plays in 31 days, because you don't have time to stop and like think about it. You're just go.
Did you do that this past August, I think?
I did not.
You did not.
No.
In fact, they sort of went on hiatus for the year.
Because I wasn't doing it.
I think it was because of Brandon. Yeah, they decided that
Brandon's not doing it.
Right, yeah. Oh, God, what are we doing?
There is no meaning anymore.
What's the point?
Yeah. So they didn't, there was not 31 plays in 31days.com did not send out prompts.
Right.
But invited people to write if they wished.
Yeah. I think I half answered like 3 different questions.
But that's great. And one of my questions was about season 2. I'm very excited that there are plans in the works for season 2.
Right.
And I will note, with the exception of season 1, I saw ratings on iTunes, and it has 33 ratings, all 5 stars.
Yep. Pretty good.
It's a pretty good indication that this is quality, and check it out. And it's not a dare for someone to not rate it 5 stars.
Right. Right.
Don't be that person.
If you're a contrary sort of personality, yes, stay off iTunes.
And my personal plug is that, again, this is not the kind of thing I thought I would enjoy. Yeah. And therefore, it actually took me a while. And it took me, I have to say, like 2 tries.
Yeah.
Like I listened to episode 1, a little bit of episode 2, and then 3 weeks would go by, and I would like, who are those characters again? So I went back and started. And then once I got into it, I binged. I didn't binge anything, but I binged and listened to the whole thing in one afternoon. And then again, recently, to prep for today, I went back and listened to it again. And it's great because both aspects of the story clarify and deepen on repeated listenings, which is great. So don't rush into season 2 because there's still a lot of listening in season 1.
But if you did rush through it, you could go back and listen a second time, and your listen would be rewarded. It's interesting that you mentioned that not being a gamer, you kind of like had trouble getting into it, because ideally what I hoped I was doing was telling a story where if you like action adventure, if you like sort of imaginative storytelling, if you like any of the Marvel movies, that was my thinking. Is like this metaphor here is like they're not nerds around a table, they're superheroes, and these are their alter egos, and this is what's possible when they join forces. And I think I was surprised after the fact that people found the fact that they're playing a game like Dungeons & Dragons to be like almost like a self-identified sort of barrier. Like, oh, well, I don't know that game, I've never played.
But I think you also have that great device in episode 1 of the new player, right? So we're kind of walking into that world with Benedict. Like, I'm a stranger in a strange land too, and I don't really know what's happening around me. And you're able to, just at the moment when the listener, if the listener is like me and not really into that world, starts to say, well, wait a minute, you can hear the needle going across the record kind of thing. Like, wait a minute, hold on, like, what's really going on here? And so you can pull out, get a sense of regrounding, and then go back into the game. That was a brilliant touch for maybe the people who really are gamers were like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, let's keep going in this story. But for someone like me, it was perfect.
Yeah.
To allow me it legitimized my sense of like, but wait a minute, hold on. Oh yeah, okay, so asking what's going on is a legitimate question, and so I can carry that question with me as I go back.
Yeah.
So, Brandon, which character do you most closely align with?
Uh-oh. Probably Athena.
Put upon Dungeon Master.
Yeah, the long beleaguered. Yeah. That's something I very much identify. The kind of thing I babbled about earlier is the thing where she's used to every area of her life kind of yielding space to people, and with the assumption that they will at some point yield it back to her. And then it's a lot of work that she has to do to kind of figure out. It may have been partially their fault, maybe a lot of it Dominic's fault, but also a little bit she's responsible for not claiming the space she should have. And so Athena is kind of like a slightly younger version of myself, where I hadn't kind of learned that yet. And I found myself just often, I don't know, giving more than I was receiving, or at least that was my perception sometimes.
And again, no spoilers, but the place where that goes at the end of episode 6 is pretty great. You get that human part of her journey and where that lands.
I want to transition to playwriting. You talked about 10-minute plays, but another thing you've done, I've seen 1-minute plays. You talk about how that started and what goes in mind when you do something like that.
Yeah, those are almost exclusively, I think, thought experiments from 31 Plays in 31 Days. And again, what I love about the challenge is just like you just try things that would never have occurred to you otherwise. When you have no time and the month's running out and you barely any energy and you're just flying through it on adrenaline alone, you're like, there's an idea, there's an idea, there's an idea. And they're not good ideas, but like one might be. And it's like not a premise you would ever try, if you had the time and space to. And so, yeah, a lot of my 10-minute plays that have seen, 1-minute plays that have seen the stage were a successful version of one of those days. So when I went into them, they weren't necessarily designed to be 1-minute plays. They were just an idea. And then
that's how it happened to be.
Right. Either the story concluded in a minute or two, or it revealed itself to have legs. And then later I would go back and revise it and turn it into a 10-minute piece.
Were you ever invited by the 1-Minute Play Festival, which I just heard about last year?
I have never been invited by them, but were they to invite me, I would graciously accept.
Nice. This guy's doing it anyway. So we were going to do something that we haven't done before. We thought we were going to perform one of your 1-minute plays in its entirety on the podcast. So without further ado, we present The Successful Author's Morning Ritual by Brandon M. Crose. Setting: a bed and a desk with a computer on it. Characters: successful author, male or female, any age. This could be performed with a narrator reading the lines and successful author pantomiming reaction to them. At rise: successful author in bed, asleep. Alarm goes off.
Oh, when you hear the alarm, do not shut it off. Do not tell yourself that you'll just do better tomorrow.
Falls asleep. Reset. Alarm.
When the alarm goes off, don't shut it off. Don't hit snooze, especially
hits it.
Don't hit it several times.
Falls asleep. Reset. Alarm.
Don't shut it off. Don't hit snooze. Just get up. Don't check email or Facebook. Oh my God. She did what?
Reset. Alarm.
Just get up. Don't check the phone at all. Go directly to the computer.
Sit at desk.
Don't check email. Don't check Facebook. Silly kittens.
Reset. Alarm.
Go directly to the computer. Disabled internet. Open a Word doc and write.
Not writing.
And write.
Still not writing.
Accept that writing is hard. Embrace the process.
Reaching for phone.
Absolutely do not check internet things on your phone because it's right there and so much easier than writing.
Reset. Alarm.
Disable internet. Turn off the stupid phone. Engage with the blank page. Embrace the white oblivion. Rage against the void. Write something. Anything. Anything at all. Write poopy pants.
Right.
Yes. Poopy pants. You wrote those words. You will I hope to delete them later, but that does not matter. This does. A moment ago, you were just an aspiring writer, and now you're an author.
Getting ready for the day.
Is that a swagger in your step? Why, I think it is. Good for you. Bask in that victorious glow. You've earned it.
Energy begins to wane over the following.
Just remember, eat well today, get some exercise, don't stay out too late with friends, spend tonight preparing for tomorrow. Get to bed by 10 at the latest, and tomorrow...
Falls into bed. Reset. Alarm.
Do it all over again.
End of play. I don't want to alarm you, but I think that's a little more than 1 minute.
Yeah. I'm really slow when I'm waking up, so that's probably... So was that one of your 31 plays in 31 days?
Yes. It was not at all autobiographical.
No.
And so there's an example of I was probably getting down to the dregs of my idea pool, and when you start writing about your writing, you're in trouble. But that's one of my more successful short pieces. I think it's in an anthology. It was staged and gone in 60 seconds, sort of a U.S. and international. They did it actually. I had imagined it kind of as you guys performed it, but they had done it with several actors, and kind of it was almost like a chorus. It was really interesting.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. Wow, I was not expecting that.
It was all part of Greg's genius plan.
Yeah.
So you do the super short play. Have you ever attempted to do the full length?
I have, and John has witnessed the lamentable outcome of one of those. I love the idea of writing a full length. I love the idea of myself writing a full length. It's just not... I've gotten to the end of one twice, and I've never quite been happy with the end result. I think part of it, I don't know if I'm just kind of imaginatively impatient or what, but it's such a commitment to kind of... You have an idea that you think has legs for a full length, and then you kind of need to see that through. And that's time you could be pursuing other ideas that you're not. Mm-hmm. So you have to be reasonably sure about how that's going to turn out. Right. Is one hurdle. And then the other piece is I'm really attracted to telling stories about people over time, which is a format that television or audio drama really lends itself well to. But with a full-length play, it's kind of like a novel. It's its own, world, and then it's over once it's over.
Right.
My favorite play is Tony Kushner's Angels in America. I think it's because it's 7 days long. Because it has the space to tell these stories over time. Yeah, so if I could figure out a way to do that within that format, I mean, maybe I could tell... Surely this has been done before. Is there such a thing as a serialized sort of full length?
The playwright in Somerville is trying to do a series of serialized sort of fantasy plays.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I forget her name, but someone told me about that.
Right.
As someone involved at Theater at First, who did their Giving at First events, that's supposed to be a thing that's happening. I don't have the exact name right now.
Right. I think there's another too. I know Alex Johnson was working with a company that was where he was sort of a script writer in charge of a device process that was going to be an ongoing thing. But he's moving to Barcelona, so it could be your opening.
I mean, hey, I am open to any and all collaborations.
In addition to plays, you also write books, I've noticed. Would you like to talk about those? They seem very wide-ranging in subject.
Yeah, so I have been writing a series of nonfiction titles for Hallmark gift books called... They range from Now You're 30 to Now You're 80. Go into your local Hallmark Gold Crown store. You'll find them on a spindle somewhere. They're a gift book, which I didn't know what that was until I started writing them, is a book you buy for someone, not necessarily one you read yourself. So the concept of it is an obvious match for whatever the consumers need. So in this case, it's someone turning a milestone birthday, all the people in your life who are turning 30, 40, 50, 60. And the concept of the books, which changed just as I started writing them and had already signed the contract, it really ballooned in scope. It was going to be, we were going to revise them every year, and then it became a sort of each edition would be good for 5 years. So within each book, from now to 5 years from now, I should be able to give this book to someone turning a milestone age, and they can read through it and kind of relive things they may or may not have remembered through the context of the age they were at that time, right? Which was a tremendous amount of research for me as a then, I think, 29-year-old, writing about the lived experience of a 60-year-old.
And it is the gift that keeps on giving for you because of the revisions that are required.
So we've done one. It's on its second edition now, and it would be coming up to its third, but I've not yet heard from Hallmark. So,
well, can't they now just do what used to be the year turning 50 is now the...
No. That would be impossible. Well, it's interesting what kind of changes over time, right? You know, in these new versions, I'm not going to be mentioning Bill Cosby in any kind of positive light, for instance.
Right.
In a previous version, Donald Trump was kind of like, you know, goofy reality star. Yeah. So, you know, like you
reality overtakes fantasy.
Yeah, people who share your age, you know, Lance Armstrong, you know, acclaimed American bicyclist.
Wow, Greg, the podcast just went really dark.
But yeah, it's a fun and really immersive gig being a nonfiction author of gift books.
So one question we always like to ask is, what would be the phone call that you most like to hear from someone listening to the podcast? What is your dream email or phone call?
I've listened to several other episodes of this, and everyone's answers are very like altruistic or humble, and I'm just gonna I would love, you know, the CEO of like Netflix or Amazon or YouTube or Hulu or Facebook Watch or whatever to have discovered The Ordinary Epic and want to turn it into a television series.
Would you like to fantasy cast it right now?
Oh my goodness. Well, you'd both have parts, obviously.
Oh, good.
After John's skillful reading of my opus, the successful.
You didn't know this was a backdoor audition,
right?
We know a producer.
Yeah, I mean, all the actors of The Ordinary Epic are professional, you know, Boston area stage actors, and you know, ideally it would be them. But then the fantasy versions might be different. I don't know, because visually, in the audio format, you know, the listener gets to kind of paint that picture. But then, you know, do we have Rachel Belleman, you know, dressed up as like a towering half orc? Is it like CGI? Like, how does that work? So that would be an interesting kind of discussion. If whether it would be like different actors playing the fantasy versions, maybe with the voices of the real life people, or would it be CGI or cartoon like Harmon Quest does it?
Well, Brandon, if this ever happens,
yes,
and you need staff writers,
sure,
John and I are both available.
Excellent. I'll need help.
So, Brandon and John, thank you for joining me again.
Thank you.
And to everyone listening, support new plays and support local playwrights.
The Ordinary Epic was created by Brandon M. Crose. Jordan Stillman was the executive producer. Brad Smith was the technical producer. Sound design by Matthew Lightbound. Music by Tivin Weinstock and Bradley Jordan. Directed by Stephanie LeBolt. Emo and Thack were played by Rachel Belleman. Athena was played by Caitlin Gjerdrum. Marcus and Benedict were played by Brandon G. Green. Daniel and Merrick were played by Michael Hisamoto. Dominic and Caelus were played by Eliott Purcell. Follow us on Twitter at BossPodPlay and on Facebook. Please rate us on iTunes or your podcast player of choice. You can support us on Patreon at BossPodPlay. Our theme was composed by Thomas Deus, thomasdeusmusic.com. Additional music by bensound.com. Other than yourself, do you know of a Boston area playwright who you'd like to be featured on the show? Let us know at bosspodplay@gmail.com.